Hello, everybody, and welcome to Unleash Your Pleasure. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm Sydney Richdale. I'm the host of this amazing event that I'm so excited to put on for you. Today, we have a super special guest. I'm so thrilled to have her. Her name is Dr. Martha Tara Lee. Hi, Martha.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Good. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Dr. Martha is joining us all the way from Singapore, so it's so lovely to have her. And before we jump into questions, I just want to read her quick bio so I can introduce her properly, and then we'll jump in. So, a born and bred Singaporean Chinese, Dr. Martha Tara Lee is a relationship counselor and clinical sexologist of Eros coaching. She has a doctorate in human sexuality, a master's in counseling, and 2 other degrees. In practice for 12 years, Dr. Lee is also the appointed resident sexologist for Sexual Wellness Boutique, pinklifestyle.com, and clinical sexologist of Singapore Cancer Society. She was recognized, I lost my spot here. She was recognized as one of the top 50 inspiring women under 40 by Her World in July 2010, and one of the top 100 inspiring women by Cozy Cot in March 2011. She is the author of Love, Sex, and Everything in Between, Orgasmic Yoga, Masturbation, Meditation, and Everything in Between, and From Princess to Queen. Ooh, I love that. Heartbreaks, Heartgasms, and Everything in Between, and her very latest, Uninhibited. Woo, that's a lot. Congrats on all those accomplishments.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I love books, so I see books as part of my legacy. So yeah, I think four is slow.
Amazing. Well, we're so glad you created those to share with the world. So my first question I would love to ask you, Martha, is what is your favorite part about the work you do and how you support people around their sexual relationships?
Yeah, I think my favorite part is when they leave with a very different energy. They come in usually very heavy and sad and worried and scared. And then when they leave, they're smiling, they're laughing, they're happy, they're hopeful. So it's amazing what 1 hour can do. And that's my favorite part when they are walking away feeling equipped and empowered, uh, to resolving their issues. And of course, for some clients, it's definitely going to require more than one session, but even the start of being able to see that difference is why I do what I do.
Mm.
Yeah. So essentially, I work with individuals and couples for the last 12 years. People who have all kinds of relationship and sexuality challenges, questions. I work with a lot of people with vaginismus, with unconsummated marriage. Vaginismus is when the vagina shuts down, making penetration difficult, impossible. I work with a lot of people who are trying to understand about orgasms and for people with penises, like premature ejaculation, erectile difficulties. So yeah, I work with men and women, regardless of their sexual orientation and gender identity as well. Um, they come in by themselves or they come in as a couple.
Beautiful. I love that. So diverse. That's awesome. And yeah, I can totally see how that could be that is your favorite part. You're just like noticing people's energy when they come in and like they just have a chat with you, and that really helps open people up. I imagine it feels so powerful for people to just be held in a space where they can open up about sex because it's still kind of taboo, would you say?
Yeah, people are still very inhibited around this, even though I don't see why they should. Um, I think it's also the lack of practice. We
Mm.
don't really talk about sex. It's considered indecent and inappropriate. for corporate world. So I
Mhm.
think this filters all the way down to us also not being able to talk about sex easily in our own relationships.
Yeah, it's true. And yeah, so I'm curious, like you've noticed these shifts for people who come into your practice and work with you. What do you think it is that creates those shifts for people? Like what leads them to feeling more open or
Yeah,
confident?
I think it's the lack of sex education. If you don't know what to do and then you keep doing things in the same way because you don't know what to do, then of course you're gonna keep having the same outcomes.
Mhm.
So something as simple as using a better lubricant is really important. It's so basic, but if they don't have access to this, then they can continue to have pain. I met someone who was having repeated episodes of yeast infection because of vaginal tearing. And the vaginal tearing was happening because she was only using a particular lubricant that is not optimum, dries up very quickly. And so something as simple as recommending a better lubricant, you know. So our healthcare system is failing them.
Mhm.
Clients who are prescribed these kinds of inferior lubricants and then having the same outcome, you know, they didn't do anything wrong. They did ask their doctor, but they just didn't get um, the appropriate specific advice that they needed.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, I love how you brought up the piece about sex education because, yeah, we don't get a lot of it. And a lot of it, at least from what I remember in school, it talks about like pregnancy and menstruation, and no one ever mentions pleasure, but that's a thing. So I love that you brought that up. And how do you
Yeah.
think we can bring more of that into our world so we create those safe spaces for people to talk about sex?
Uh, yeah, that's why I love summits like this, because just because we have left the school, we are now adults, we are competent, functioning, uh, income tax providers. You know, it doesn't mean that we know everything, especially when it comes to our sexuality.
Mhm.
And it's good to continue to learn and take ownership for the fact that we don't know everything, and life is a journey of continued learning. So summits like this are really targeted at people who intuitively they know something is missing in their life and they are seeking to find out more. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That's what we want for everybody. Sexual freedom.
Yeah,
So,
it's a our sexuality is a big part of who we are, whether we want to admit it or not. And it is people who are uncomfortable with their sexuality that I feel will never fully have access to the fullest potential of who they can be.
mm, yeah.
So I consider our sexuality as the last frontier of becoming an adult, because we can learn everything else from writing a checkbook, balancing our budget, and learning how to drive, um, how to perform certain traits, you know, depending on what we want to get into in terms of our career. But we don't really put sexuality at the forefront of um, our life. I see it as a very important part of our personal life, having happy relationships and marriages.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Totally. And yeah, something you hear quite often in the relationship world is like, no sex, not the happiest marriage. So it's like, yeah, like how do we sort of bring people together to really deepen into that pleasure and connection? Because people want that.
yeah. Sex is definitely a very important part in a relationship, because if it is not there, a lot of people that I know of say that it just feels like you're with your friend.
Mhm.
What makes a romantic relationship um, unique is this part of the sexuality, and when if we expect our partners to be monogamous, then the sex needs to be there and needs to be good. So the lack of sexual frequency can cause a lot of distress for both parties.
Yeah, totally. Because would you say, like, if you're not having sex in your relationship, whether you're single or not, like, that energy, like, I feel like it wants to come out, it wants to be expressed, it wants to be acknowledged and celebrated. So I'm
Yes.
curious, like, how do you support people to really, like, embody and, like, create and cultivate that sexual energy that you I've read through your work is like you equate it as a life force energy.
Yeah, it is because we come from sex, and a lot of people ask about like why do I need to feel horny? This is part of this energy that wells up inside us, and from that energy, we want to do something, we want to create, we want to perform, we want to express,
Mhm.
we want to fulfill our purpose. Um, this energy is definitely um, not something that is just, oh yeah, it's frivolous or it's useless. It comes from a place of wellness. People who are tired, people who are sick, often they don't have sexual desire, and so sexual desire and sexual arousal actually comes from a place of health, and it is a part of what is important to guard, to cultivate, to nurture. It is something precious in us because this is the energy that makes you different, very different from the next person. We talk about people who are really comfortable with their bodies and their sexuality. Like they just have some special quality in them that we want to look at. So if you look at like actresses and celebrities, a big part of why they are so attractive, not just physically looking good, is the energy that they're emanating, because they
Mhm.
have done a lot of work on themselves, and they also have a high degree of self-awareness. That's why they are so interesting to watch. So short of the gossip and all these things and all this bombardment by the media, there is this fascination of their lives because they actually have something that seems to be different from rest of us. So,
Mhm.
so granted that I mean, I really like how the world has changed. That now we have a lot more diversity and inclusion, and we're celebrating people of all kinds of races and gender and body types, sexual orientation. That's great because we need to see those representations so that we ourselves feel that we have the permission to recognize that each and every one of us actually are unique and special. But that's not to say they are more special than us. Actually, the specialness in it is in all of us, and it's for us to cultivate.
Mhm.
So being able to know that this energy actually brings good things into your life. You're from owning your sexuality, being able to emanate, then you attract good things in your life, whether it's lovers, whether it's partners, whether it's job opportunities. When someone is desperate for a job, that desperate vibe will actually cause people to be repulsed by you. So similarly, being comfortable with your sexuality will actually attract, rather than feeling like you need to work so hard.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense too.
Yeah, so for people who are, whether you are married or whether partnered or whether you are single, um, even just recognizing that it is an important part of myself and I'm going to take ownership for that side of me. So taking ownership for yourself means that when you have your sexual arousal, you have sexual desire coming up, like you don't ignore it, like you actually see as something that is positive and good, versus people who just ignore it and kind of just disregard it, sweep it under the carpet. And over time, what happens is because it's that little voice that is not being heard, the little voice just stops speaking to you. So
Mm.
it is important to recognize it as something good in the first place. And whether you choose to act on it or not, it is up to you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, I have sexual desire, I feel horny, I must masturbate. It doesn't mean that you can actually take that energy and actually use it, whether it is to write a book, or whether it's to dance it out, or whether it's to channel it into something. It is entirely possible, but actually just listening to it, recognizing it, and actually doing something with it, rather than just thinking like it needs to be masturbation.
I love that you brought that up, because lately in my life I've been doing burlesque dancing, and holy, that has like totally opened me up, and it is like a beautiful outlet for that sexual energy, because like you just said, you don't have to just masturbate or have sex in order to use that energy or just like experience it. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that, just like find some kind of channel where you can like direct that, and
Yes.
then that's
I think
great.
I think that we are afraid of what we don't know. So a lot of us are afraid of this energy, feeling that it's going to be out of control, when in reality it's something that is yours to play with, to experiment with. And if you really know your sexuality and your sexual energy for what it is, you will not be afraid. And so learning how to be safe is one thing, how to speak up, how to put in place boundaries, whether it's sexually or romantically, is part of taking care of ourselves. But beyond that, once you have that safety, being able to then relax into it, to be able to give, to be able to receive, to be able to laugh and joke about it, is all very, very important. So the more information, knowledge that we have, the more equipped we are to take better care of ourselves. And so that includes, like for instance, burlesque, like like people think of them as, just striptease, but what is the difference? It's the enjoyment of your body and the performance of it, and the tease, rather than the what people consider like the finale or the orgasm. It's just about the orgasm. It's also about enjoying the process. So burlesque is very similar. And it helps us to realize like it's okay to take our time as well.
Yes, definitely those really slow reveals.
Yeah, I like how it feels against your skin, because it's contagious, right? Like if you do slow and you are really enjoying your body, like it's contagious, it's energy. People can feel what you might be feeling, because they too have a body that they too touch. And so it's the muscle memory, it's the body memory that also invokes certain things in them. So it's really beautiful.
It totally is. And it's such a special part of ourselves that honestly the world kind of tells us that we should shut down, or like not really like acknowledge, unless it's like in the darkness behind closed doors with our partner, like but it is really beautiful, like you said, life force energy that can fuel a lot of like other beautiful activities, not just sex related, but dancing or movement or art, creativity, theater, like.
Yeah. I think inherently there's a lot of shame when it comes to masturbation. I mean, sexologists like myself can go on and say we shouldn't feel that masturbation is shameful. But the inherent thing about masturbation and sex is that we do it privately, we do it, behind closed doors. And so that secrecy actually brings in the shame as well. So exposing yourself to different adventures can be very beneficial. For instance, like burlesque, you don't give all of it away, but then you do some of it in public, so that you feel, there is a sense of freedom, and there's a sense of letting go of all these layers of shame that actually doesn't need to be there, but somehow is stuck in our bodies. So this is why some people do like going to um, places like sex clubs where you can have sex in a room, or places like a sex resort, or a sex cruise. I think that there is a freedom in like letting go of all these shackles that doesn't need to be there. But of course, we do need to be appropriate, navigating this world. We don't want to do anything illegal, but there are spaces that people can seek out. There are places, for instance, like sex workshops, where we can talk about sex more openly, and this is where all these layers can come off as well. So I'm not saying that, oh, all of you need to like, go and go for an orgy or things like that. It is still very much a personal choice. But what I'm trying to say is that all these layers of shame definitely is there, and sometimes it's stuck in our body.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up because yeah, shame is a huge piece that like represses us from really expressing our who we truly are, our sexual, sensual side. Like, so yeah, what would you say to someone that is a sort of sharing with you that yeah, they do feel shame around either their orientation or their desires or fantasies or what they want to try? Like, what would you say to that person?
Well, to realize that they are not alone, and that the secrecy actually causes more shame. So being able to talk about sex with trusted people, friends. Some people don't do that. So to be able to teach them the skills so that they can open up um, themselves to begin to start practicing with trusted people, like say their friends or lovers, and then from there explore further, including exploring their own body. So rather than they feel shame and then they stop, maybe like they feel shame and then they work through it, and then they can do the inner self-talk to soothe themselves, to
Mhm.
normalize it, to let them know that actually there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. It's okay. I'm doing a good job. Just like extended masturbation can actually even help to let go of the shame as well.
Right. Oh my gosh. Can you speak more into that? And also, I would love to touch on the masturbation meditation because that's so interesting. Like, what's that all about?
Yeah, so I have a book called Orgasmic Yoga. And orgasmic yoga is a practice where you self pleasure for 30 minutes for 30 days. So it's encouraged because similar to what I said, like we actually fall into certain masturbation patterns, like just do it quickly, get it over and done with. And you'll be surprised that actually a lot of penis owners that I know of, even though they do tend to masturbate a lot more, they don't necessarily allow themselves to enjoy. They most see it like a sense of like get it over and done with, like it's a nuisance, it helps me sleep better, I need to get rid of this like sexual urge, this horniness. So they don't really see as something that is beautiful, that's good, what I mentioned earlier. So in
Mhm.
orgasmic yoga there are different practices that you can engage in so as to prolong your pleasure. So instead of rushing through it, experimenting with your body as if your body is your own playground. So what I mentioned, like people are afraid of what they don't know. But if you spend more time with yourself, playing or masturbating or pleasuring yourself in different ways, what happens is you actually work through all the shame and work through the self-limiting restrictions and constrictions that we put onto ourselves. And it doesn't need to be like that. There is actually no limit to pleasure. A lot of us were like, oh, this is too much, and then stop. Like, why not sometimes indulge, and then you overdo something, and then you like really work it out of your system. So that's like really giving yourself permission rather than stopping yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so anyway, in orgasmic yoga, there are seven ways in which we can experiment and play with our bodies. The first one is pelvic floor squeezes, yeah, or also known as Kegels.
Mm-hmm.
So while you are masturbating or pleasuring, or your partner is touching you, you can actually do your pelvic floor squeezes. So instead of your partner, give, you receive, and then you're just passively there, you can also start doing your squeezes while you are getting the pleasure. So it's like instead of one thing happening, they touch, I receive. I'm also activating something within myself. So pelvic floor squeezes. Then there's playing with your breath, playing with sound, playing with movement, playing with touch, playing with intention. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
all these things that are the fundamentals actually behind tantra, neo tantra nowadays. So if
Mhm.
we can practice by ourselves, playing with breath, sound, movement, touch, intention, like changing things up, and actually creating a container for ourselves and say, okay, if I have 30 minutes, what do I want to do? So I've done this before, I'm comfortable with this. What else can I do? What else can I try? Oh, I don't
Mhm.
make sounds in the bedroom. I really don't. uh, so then I need to ask myself, like, what is my authentic sexual voice? Am I making sounds in bed to satisfy my partner, or is this a real sound that comes from within me? So I also had to kind of like unthaw my sexual voice, because a lot of people, myself included, we tend to freeze when it comes to being touched. We actually feel scared, we feel overwhelmed, we feel uncertain, we are not sure what to do. And so that comes from sexual inexperience. So knowing that, oh, I can experiment in this way by myself, I can make some sounds, actually starts to really free up things in your whole body, so that you can unleash your pleasure, literally.
Yeah, there it is. Amazing. I love that you brought that up. Just like the fact that a lot of people sort of retract when people are being touched, because I've experienced that, and I always like thought something was wrong with me. And then I was like, what is going on? Like my brain and my body are disconnected, because I'm like, my brain wants it. It wants touch. It wants to receive this from this person I love and trust. But my body's saying no. So it's
Yes,
like, what's behind that? And how can we
yes,
sort of acknowledge and like
yes.
hold ourselves with compassion, but also like, how do we work through it, you know?
Yes. So the
Mhm,
first thing is exactly what you say. We need to be compassionate to ourselves, to
mhm,
recognize that when we are exposed to something new, we will definitely be tentative about it. So the
mhm.
frozenness that people are in the bedroom is very much linked to sexual experience. And then of course there are people who have had trauma and sexual trauma, and that is also another part of why they feel that the disconnect between the mind and the body. So it's really important to create as much safety as you can before you have sex, to
Yeah.
actually tell your partner, this is what my history has been, and this is what I need, and this is where I do not want you to go. I think all these things are very important. And then you
Mhm,
go through that phase. You hope for the best, and uh, um, hopefully, you can also establish signals and code words to create safety for yourself. And then
mhm.
afterwards do a debrief and say, just now when this happened, this is what came up for me. I couldn't speak. um, Please don't take it the wrong way. And in the future, this is what I would like. So slowly untoying and unleashing all your access to pleasure. And this is the
Mhm.
reason why I very much like people to do orgasmic yoga by themselves. If you do something in different ways for 30 days, you are basically accessing different points, and you are slowly unfreezing yourself. And of course, for those people who are like, I don't have 30 minutes for 30 days, then how about 1 week? If not 1 week, then how about 3 days? Like giving
Mhm.
yourself that kind of a commitment, so that you can
Yeah.
really um excess pleasure, but actually kind of like, like a rubber band, like stretch it a little bit, stretch it, and before you know it, it has already changed shape.
True. And I love that you brought up the piece about safety and being able to talk about your needs with your, whether it's your partner, your, someone you're married to, or if you're like navigating the dating world or casual relationships. Yeah, just like feeling comfortable enough to share what your needs are, what makes you feel safe, because ultimately, I don't think we can really experience pleasure in a way unless we feel safe. So,
Precisely. And
mhm,
if we are not able to do small things, like being able to speak up, then how are we going to be able to actually navigate other relationships where this is like a casual hookup? So this is really a life skill, learning how to be clear within yourself, being able to speak up, and then really being able to stand your stand stand true to your boundaries, um, and to like not dismiss the way that you are feeling, or like when people are dismissing you, like to not make any kind of this kind of like apologies. So for
mhm,
people who are finding it difficult to speak up, one of the things that I like to suggest is that you write it down, what you want to say,
mhm,
and you can rehearse it in your head. You can rehearse it out loud, and you can also rehearse with a friend. So once you have done these things, you will feel a lot more comfortable. And of course, it's not easy. It's not easy to learn how to speak up. I also had to learn this coming from a very toxic family, to be honest.
yeah,
I grew up seeing people being passive aggressive or aggressive, but it took me a long time to learn how to reparent myself, so that I learned to be assertive. So finding
mhm,
our voice takes time and effort, and recognizing that we all come from, to some extent, dysfunctional families, and we
mhm,
don't know what to do. So part of becoming an adult is recognizing what you do not know, going out to learn about it, and reparent yourself, and to also self-soothe yourself when you so supposedly fail.
Right. Yeah, those are all amazing points, and I totally agree.
Yeah, I see life as a journey, there's no right or wrong. We make mistakes, we do things that we are not proud of, but I don't necessarily really see that as mistakes if we really are able to have enough self-awareness and self-compassion to say, okay, let me just sit with this. This is what happened. So how can I do better next time? I think it's more important how you can do better next time. Whereas like and sometimes there are patterns, like I keep doing this, I don't like what's happening, I don't know why this keeps happening. Then yeah, it's really important to really develop that self-awareness, like it's okay, this is what's happening, this has happened again, so what can I do to shift it just a little bit, and
Mhm.
slowly but surely it will shift. Also I will recommend like going to a helping professional, because they actually are able to impart skills and knowledge, so that you don't have to keep struggling by yourself as well.
Yes, you are not alone out there. If you're struggling to voice what you want, or any sort of challenge you're having around sex, your relationships, you are so not alone. And you are so right about that, Martha. There is a community out there to support you for sure. Oh my gosh, we are just about out of time. I want to talk to you so much longer. There's so many great avenues to explore through this conversation, but I know we have to wrap up soon. So, Martha, I would love for you to share your free gift with the audience and what that is.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been really fun being here. Um, so yeah, my free gift is this ebook called Reclaiming Your Sexuality, and there are some exercises inside the book. It also talks about the importance of reclaiming our sexuality. It is yours to really harness and to share with the world. And whatever that we need to work through, we don't have to feel overwhelmed. We just need to take small steps.
Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for that generous gift.
Thank you.
I'm going to hit that up. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for your time, Martha. This has been a lovely, lovely chat. And I'm so excited for the audience to hear it and get your book and just like really get on that path to that sexual freedom that everyone's looking for. So thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been great. And thank you so much to the audience. The show would not be what it is without you. So I'm so grateful for you. And I'll see you next for the next interview. Bye for now.